Good evening. Welcome to Sound Engraver's live commentary. I hope your Monday is doing well. I would just love to see in the chat if I sound good. I was just testing audio for a little bit, just making sure it was connected right. I changed the computer a little bit while I proceed to this live stream. So yes, okay, good. Professor Geek, my professor says you look and sound great. Oh, you sound great and look beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm wearing the festive red, of course, for Christmas, because we're going to be talking about the Christmas season. We're talking about Advent tonight, and actually how it can be a kind of parallel to fandom. So this will be related to popular art, but we'll just get started with the basic overview of Advent, at least in my experience. So let's go ahead and welcome the chat. And actually, before I begin, let me make sure I'm muted on YouTube. All right. Okay. So Dr. Y also says, all systems are good. You are coming in loud and clear. Good. Wonderful. Yeah, actually, I have my mic a tad closer. Actually, you can't see it in the screen, but it's like right at my face. But I prefer it a little bit closer, so I don't have to talk so loudly where there's a little bit of reverberance there. Anyway, let's go ahead and start with welcoming the chat. Professor Geek says, hello, dear Sound Engraver. I've been looking forward to this topic ever since you mentioned it the other day. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to talking about it too. I hope it, I hope I get to say everything I mean to say, because this is more or less an impromptu. I have like one small page of notes right there, but I hope, yeah. I think this is a very, very important topic to talk about if you are a fan of anything. And also the Advent season is a really important season. It's one of my favorite times of the year, really. And we'll get into that a little bit. Brian Gilmartin, hello, welcome, says, Advent season. I don't believe I've heard of it. This should be interesting. Yeah, this is actually, it is a Christian tradition. It's actually more common with Catholics, but Protestants, as far as Presbyterian, some churches from the Presbyterian side there, and then also Lutheran also celebrate the traditions of Advent. And I really wish every denomination of the Protestant circle celebrated, because it's really, I think, a very, very important time for Christians. So again, we'll talk about it, a little bit, get into the meat of it, but it shouldn't take too long. So you'll be getting a bit of an overview, a little synopsis of the Advent season. And then also Dr. Y. To be honest, I know nothing about Advent, other than that Lego makes Advent calendars. Yeah, actually, I mean, I first heard of Advent when you were kind of opening each, calendar day, if it's like a window for a little toy or a piece of chocolate or something like that. I get that. Big Al, welcome. Oh, I was gonna show you guys something. 1 second. Well, let's welcome Big Al first. It is the beautiful task of Advent to awaken in all of us memories of goodness and thus to open doors of hope. Pope Benedict the 16th, yeah, I believe. Let me read that quote again. I'd like to read that nice and clearly. It is the beautiful task of Advent to awaken in all of us memories of goodness and thus to open doors of hope. Pope Benedict the 16th. Oh, actually, let me leave you up, Al, and let me stop the camera, because I gotta show you guys what my good friend Al gave me for Christmas, as a Christmas present. It's a present, of course, for Christmas, and people would like to wait usually, but this is perfect for the whole Christmas season. So let me go ahead and grab that real quick. Yeah, this is actually what I forgot. So my dear Al, for Christmas, gave me this fantastic ornament, the regular control pad for the Nintendo Entertainment System, or NES. Now, I've never played NES. I started with Super Nintendo, but the prof on his retro box has all the games, so I will be going, to the classics. And I did see, I had a cousin from my childhood play the original Nintendo system, so that is going to be hung on the tree. It's just great. It has a really nice weight to it, so we'll have to find some thick branch to put it on. But I just love the look. It's such a great retro look. So anyway, thank you, Big Al. I do appreciate that. I also have like a bit of a dry throat, so I may be coughing off and on, but I'm not sick or anything. It's just the drop in temperature, and it's become quite dry, for our states over here. And Zetopia is in the house. Hello, welcome. And Fotis is also in the house. Welcome, welcome. And nice to see you there, Fotis. And Ace, you haven't missed anything. I'm just welcoming the chat. And yeah, exactly. Brian Gilmartin says, "Oh, cool! That pad brings back memories. It's good stuff." And Horizon Talker. And yes, Big Al. he knows what I like. That's great. And actually, also just want to mention Dr. Y. I did want to mention. I was so happy that you had posted about a week ago or so your sketches. I saw that video today of your characters, your concept drawings and sketches. So really good. I know those videos don't get as much views, but maybe if you're frequent with those, I don't know how long those videos take, but it's really engaging to watch your sketch work. That digital landscape, and then listen to that music. And very interesting music. Do you get it from a library where you have the license to that music? It's very good music. It feels quite nice to the ears with my studio headphones. So good job on the music as well. I think it's a very nice, pleasant video. All right. Let's see. Ace says, if you get a retro console and get the EverDrive cartridge, you can play all of the games on NES. They make EverDrive cartridges for SNES, Genesis, and Nintendo 64 as well. Thank you for the recommendation. I will say the retro box, wherever Prof got it, it's just amazing. And it's probably just going to be the rest of my life just going through all those games. I mean, the Super Nintendo has just a huge library of games. Atari, Genesis, Nintendo. Yeah, it's great. Good stuff. Fotis, yes, I did get your email. I have been away from my business email. I think it's just the holidays, and I've just kind of been slack on that. But yeah, I'll have to check out what you wrote, because I momentarily have forgotten. But yeah, thank you for that. So actually, without further ado, let's just go ahead and go over the Advent season, the Christmas Advent season, and the importance of Advent in the Christian walk and the Christian tradition. And even though if you guys are non-Christians here, non-believers here, or not religious, this is actually more just for how you can compare the Christian tradition of Advent to a very healthy way of living in the fan base, in your fan base. As you are a fan of a favorite franchise or story or character or medium, like with games and a game series, there is a very, I would say, very healthy way of living as a fan, a very healthy approach to being a fan, and also a kind of lifestyle or kind of route to take as a fan that could actually be detrimental to, I would say, yes, the franchise, but then I would also say to someone's spirit and mental health, and just kind of, I would just go with this, hope deferred often makes the heart sick. And the theme of tonight is hope. We'll get into that just a little bit. So we'll start with the overview of Advent. So what is the Advent season? What is this Christian tradition of the Advent season? Well, the Advent season begins the Sunday right after our Thanksgiving here in the United States. Typically, it depends on where Thanksgiving falls, but this year it fell on the Sunday after Thanksgiving. And it's a time leading up to Christmas where you are in preparation, in a spiritual preparation of the coming of Christ. Now, the Advent actually comes from the Latin word adventus, I think is how you would pronounce it. And adventus means the arrival or the coming. So when we're celebrating the Advent season as Christians, we actually are celebrating the historical coming of Christ, the coming of the Messiah in the form of an infant. That's why Christians celebrate Christmas, of course. And then also we are looking ahead toward the second coming of Christ. So it is a time period. Advent season is about a 5-week, it's a 5-week period of solemnity and preparation and sobriety and penitence. It's a time of penitence as we are waiting for the coming of Christ, or in this case, in Christmas, it's the historical coming of Christ. As Christians believe, we do believe in the Christ incarnate and that Christ already has come to the world. And yeah, there are parts of other religions that would argue, saying, well, no, Christ has not come. But as far as Christians, we do like to celebrate the Christmas season as, oh, this is the anticipation of the birth of Christ. So one way, one symbolic, very beautiful way that churches, at least Catholic churches and also Lutheran and Presbyterian churches, one way they celebrate the Advent season is the weekly lighting of 4 candles leading up to Christmas Day, or the Sunday of Christmas, or after Christmas. I think actually it's the Sunday of Christmas. We'll just leave it at that. It's the lighting of the 4 candles. So you may see whether Christmas decorations or decor or Christmas supplies, in a Christmas shop, or maybe a department at a local store, you may see Advent wreaths. And these wreaths are positioned on the table, and erected on this wreath are 4 candles, pretty much equidistant from each other. They're like the 4 cardinal points of a compass, for instance. And then one center candle, one candle at the center. Now, the 4 candles surrounding that centerpiece, that candle at the center, has 2 designated colors: purple, dark purple, or dark blue. But I've seen typically purple. 3 of those 4 candles are dark purple, and then one of those candles is pink, and then the center piece is white. That center candle is white. So I'm just going to go over the four candles first. So with the lighting of the 4 candles, we have the prophecy candle, where we light that first Sunday of Advent, and that's the candle of hope. That's the theme, hope. The second is also a purple candle. So hope is purple. The second candle is also purple, and that is the Bethlehem candle, and that is the candle of preparation. The third candle, lighting on the 3rd Sunday of Advent, is pink, and that is the shepherd candle, or the candle of joy. So pink is the color of joy or rejoicing. And the angel candle is called the candle of love. The theme is love, and that's also purple. And the candle sitting at the center is white, and that is to signify the Christ, the arrival of the incarnate infant Christ. So the candle of hope is purple. The candle of preparation is also purple. The candle of joy is pink, and the candle of love is purple. Now, purple signifies 2 meanings: repentance and also royalty, which is pretty common knowledge that purple would be the color of royalty. Pink is joy and rejoicing, and then white is a color that symbolizes purity and light. So those are the 4 candles plus the 5th candle at the center and those 3 designated colors. So we're going to focus on the theme of hope this stream, where that is our first lighting. And I wanted to talk about hope and what is hope. Whether you are religious or not, we do have a common understanding of what hope is. And I want to bring up the significance of hope because I think it's something that we can look toward as maybe not as Christians, even though I am a Christian. So of course I I practice this idea of hope in my daily walk, but also just as fans. So the title of my stream is what fans of anything at all, can learn from this Advent season, and in particular, the theme of hope. So let me grab a swig of water. And we'll go ahead and get right to it. So what is hope? Hope, I would put it this way. Hope is the looking toward or looking ahead. And it's always for the good. So in the case of the Christian Advent season, we're spending a time of anticipation and penitence and waiting. Waiting is a common feature in Advent. We are waiting for the coming of Christ. So it's to signify something good. Now, it could be anything. Hope for a nice job, hope for an excellent spouse, hope for building a family, hope for getting your art piece sold. So every time we're using the context of hope, we're looking toward or looking ahead towards something that is good, something that is optimal, something that is ideal. That's a shared meaning, no matter who you ask on the street. So that's the universally shared meaning of hope. Now, in the Christian walk, hope is not a passive thing. It's not just, sitting back and waiting passively for something. In the Christian walk, especially with something like something that is celebrated traditionally in the Advent season, it is a time of penitence. It's a time of very serious reflection and self-evaluation. Who you are as a Christian, where you are, where you stand in holiness, where you stand in goodness, where do you stand in virtue, or if you have some kind of vice or some kind of sin you're struggling with, where are you there? It is a time of being serious, solemn, being sober. It is a time of it's a time of a very good kind of darkness. It's a time to understand and reflect where you are lacking, what is bad, or what are the circumstances, or where is your spirit, where is your heart in the matter of things, as you are anticipating the coming of Christ. In this case with Christmas, it's the first coming of Christ, and as the incarnate child. But it is a time of prayer and penitence. What can that mean? Well, that can mean fasting. You can be diligent in fasting. You can be diligent in prayer. You can be diligent in conducting yourself in a holy way, where you are actively putting off distractions and putting off things that could ensnare you or entangle you spiritually in the way of sin or materialism or distractions, the materialism of this world. You're supposed to, as a Christian, see ahead. You're supposed to see eternity in this time. Now, I would argue, as a Christian, if you are a Christian, you should be doing that every day of the year. It's not just a time of the 5 weeks before Christmas, before the joy comes in the coming of Christ. It should be a time that you're active and you're diligently partaking in your faith every day, from the time you get up to the time you go to bed. And even in your dreaming state, sometimes I'll have these dreams where I'm thinking, oh, is my heart right, or is my spirit right here? And then I would bring it before the Lord and say, well, what is this dream about? That's kind of a thing that I go with from time to time. It's in my memory, so that's why I'm bringing up that experience now. So I would argue as a Christian, yes, you should actually be active in your faith all the time with prayer, with a good, healthy amount of penitence every day or every week or every month. Um, but this kind of dark, sober time of waiting, of anticipation, is to look ahead for that which is good. So that in the Christian walk is hope. It's not being slack. It's not being sleepy. The Bible. There are a lot of biblical references to the sleeper or someone who is drunk with weariness or sleep, someone who should be a watchman but is not. The watchman at the gate has fallen slack, has fallen asleep. We're supposed to be diligent and vigilant as Christians, both with our mind and our heart, and also including our spirit. Excuse me, I have a very dry throat tonight. So in that way, hope isn't passive. It is quite active. The act of waiting is quite active in the Christian walk. And, I'd venture to say it would be the same with other religions. So the practice of abstaining from sin and vice as you anticipate being perfected in Christ after death. So perfected in Christ after his death and resurrection in the historical sense, as we celebrate Calvary, as we celebrate Easter, but also being perfected in Christ after the second death or your death, your mortality, your body, going to the earth and being buried, and then your spirit, of course, being revived in that kind of resurrection. So that's the Christian idea of hope in this context, in the Advent season. It's an active work to pursue holiness. It's an active work to pursue what is good. So that's the first lighting of the candles. That's the lighting of the first candle, I should say. It is that beacon of hope. It's the lighting of hope. So, putting it in that context, what does this have to do with being a fan? What does this have to do with being a fan in current times, in current cultural context? So, as a lot of you know, Brian, Dr. Y, Horizon Talker, Professor Geek, and Al, of course. Al is the embodiment of hope. You guys, of course, know that, especially in the last 10 years, but of course, it would go even further than that, earlier than that. We have seen just kind of like the debasing of very good things in our franchises. So the most prominent example for me in my experience as a fan, of course, is Star Wars. The most prominent example, I would say, for Professor Geek is Star Wars, but definitely with Superman. So the misalignment, the mistreatment of these very, very good characters, these aspirational heroes, has caused in our culture, in the geek culture, to be very much a cynical group of people. I want to say this carefully because a lot of people do like being in these circles and these communities. So I want to say this with respect and dignity, but the constant beratement and debasement and really just the overall dilapidation of very good things in our franchises, very good characters, very wholesome things, very wholesome ideas, has a lot of these things have caused kind of a point in our culture, especially with fandoms, where we have just come to not just complain, but we've come to accept that, oh, I guess this is it. But I would say that there's a part of the fandom that would say, no, we got to hold on to the hope. We have to keep hoping. We have to keep working to you know to fight the good fight and to see the good on the other side. We're going to still hope in these franchises. Now, I want to just kind of come out with it all. um I get the heart of these people. As I said previously on my stream last week, I had for a long time respected a lot of these channels. I know a lot of them mean well. I actually do believe just one or two of them are what people call grifters. I think they sensationalize bad news just for the money. That's a common practice for a lot of really big media platforms like news outlets and stuff like that. So I do believe some people can be very, very insincere when talking about the fandom and providing commentary or speculation in the fandom. But I know there are well-meaning people, even people in this community who say we just have to hold on to that hope that it's going to be better. Here's what I say. I agree. We do have to hope that it will be better. But to hold on to this hope while the machine behind it all is still running. Holding on to the hope that things will be as they were with this new insidious machine running, I would say is vanity. I would say carefully that this is vanity. So what do I mean? Well, the machine can be anything, really. It could be a political machine, it could be an economic machine, it could be an ideological machine. But an example, as we've talked about it, on my channel, and as you guys talked about it in chats on other streams and other channels, a very common example of this machine is the corporation Disney. Time and time again, especially with Star Wars, but we see it with things like Marvel too. And I'm not really um, specialized in the world of Marvel, so I'm just gonna stick to Star Wars because that's my safe house. That's the platform I know. That's the franchise I know. We're seeing this machine at work, this machine that we call Disney, where they have blatantly disregarded things that are beloved and things that are wholesome to the world of Star Wars, for instance. And yet, over the course of events, over the course of now coming on to 10 years, with the purchase of with Disney's purchase of the IP, with Star Wars and also with Marvel. Well, Star Wars is 10 years almost. In the course of events, we've seen blatant nihilistic disregard of things that we love, of things that are very, very wholesome and very culturally significant, very good to our culture, something that is timeless, good, universal, fundamental things that are timeless and that are very, very important for mankind to continue establishing and preserving. Well, we're seeing that, in many ways, in a few instances, just run to the ground, like, Disney just running that into the ground and in a blatant disregard for what is good. Obviously, the most common example, I would say the biggest example, in the case with Star Wars, is of course the sequels, and in particular, specifically The Last Jedi, but really all the films have disregarded the lore and the goodness of Star Wars. Now, since then, and a little before then, we've had relatively good things to come between. We've seen a new generation of people, a new audience, a new generation of viewers come into contact with Star Wars, for instance, with Clone Wars, the animated series. Now, there are many, many, many writing flaws with that series, with the now 7 seasons. But there were very good, strong moments in that animated series as well. I actually don't know anything about the Rebels. Prof and Al, I think, know more about that. I don't know anything about The Mandalorian, and we'll get to that. Rogue One, for its plot contrivances, Rogue One was an adequate film. I didn't see Solo. But, yeah, Rogue One was adequate, and, and then we're seeing now in the trajectory, we're seeing what I call shiny baubles. Something that hit just had a massive success was The Mandalorian. I don't want to see Mandalorian just for creative reasons, but Disney, in a very clever way, catered to fans with different things. Uh, you know, I would say the most the biggest moment for The Mandalorian was the arrival of Luke Skywalker. Now, I didn't see that. I didn't live that moment. I know to Al's dismay, the Prophet and I did not want to see that show. So we did not experience that moment of Luke Skywalker. Now, of course, you guys know where I feel is going with the character of Luke Skywalker. I've mentioned it so many times on my streams, so you know where I stand with that. But Mandalorian is one of those things that are just universally accepted by Disney Star Wars fans and then fans of the original stuff or the Clone Wars. And now we're having a lot of Star Wars news, with the Book of Boba Fett, with a season 3 of Mandalorian coming out, things like with the Ahsoka series, and it's people are just craving this. But a faction of these people who are craving this kind of thing are also still raising their pitchforks and protesting against Lucasfilm and Disney for having dared to throw on society the sequel trilogy. They still cannot forgive in a way. They still cannot forgive in a way the sequels that had been unleashed. But they are constantly distracted by the other things, The Mandalorian, the Book of Boba Fett, all of that, the shiny baubles that I say. Now, even if you believe, as I don't, even if you believe that The Mandalorian was very good writing with some very sincere, wholesome things concerning Luke Skywalker or Grogu, even if you think the Book of Boba Fett is just gonna just pay homage to fans, serving the fans after all these years of spending all that money on movies and merchandise. If you sincerely believe these are very, very good things, and that this is amounting to the hope that people are looking ahead to and saying, no, Star Wars will become good once again, I would say the signs, the telltale signs, are things like the sequel trilogy, are things like promoting the Book of Boba Fett while simultaneously promoting the High Republic. And not only promoting the High Republic, the Star Wars YouTube channel is littered with High Republic things. Not really much to do with Mandalorian, obviously, because the show is it would still, I think it's still filming, but compared to all the other things that Star Wars has in its vault, the last time I checked the Star Wars channel on YouTube, it was pretty much playlist and video after video of High Republic stuff. Now, people who love The Mandalorian and are really wanting to see the Book of Boba Fett do not like this High Republic concept. They think it's Kathleen Kennedy's pet project. They don't want Kathleen Kennedy to be in any way a part of subsequent Star Wars projects. She is the executive producer, guys. And her name is on IMDb. And people might say, well, it's bad form if her name isn't on IMDb. They're trying to save face. They're trying to bolster her up, but secretly they're really supporting fans. This cannot ensue the Star Wars that you truly want. So even if you believed that The Mandalorian is the way, the Book of Boba Fett is the way, it will not ensue the goodness and the wholesomeness, if that's a word. It will not ensue the goodness that had come before. Of course, you guys know that I do believe there are telltale signs of the writing in Clone Wars Season 7. I can't speak for Mandalorian. I won't be able to speak for the writing of the Book of Boba Fett. But I had seen people who had seen those shows complain about the inconsistencies of characters and writing. So the signs are already there that this is the trajectory where good things are being uprooted and replaced. But even if you don't believe that, even if you think this is the way, as the phrase goes now, this is the way. Supporting Disney, supporting the machine is not going to ensue that good, wholesome Star Wars that you want. For the simple reason that people are still complaining about the sequel trilogy and The Last Jedi in particular. And this is recent history. And people are convinced that the sequels are going to be retconned or at least revisited. I don't see that happening, at least not for another 50 years. But to ensure that the sequels are removed, the fandom would have to make a universal move to abstain from all things Disney, especially Star Wars. No viewing The Mandalorian Season 3, no viewing the Book of Boba Fett, no viewing the Ahsoka series. That is an impossibility, of course, because people want it, and they want it now. They want the next shiny thing. Now, this is where the Christian season of Advent comes in. This is where the parallel is. This is what makes the fandom analogous to the season of Advent. And that is to ensure the good for any franchise, for anything you love, that you have seen tarnished and stripped apart. To ensure the good and establish what has come before, you do need to conduct for yourself a time of penitence. Dare I say it, not in any sacrilegious way, but you need to repent by fasting, by abstaining from all the new stuff. Because even in the smallest way, whether it's a pirated video, which I don't support piracy anyway, or whether it's word of mouth or commenting on like a grifting channel's comment section or whatever, even in the smallest way, if you're supporting positive or negative feedback, doesn't matter. It does not matter if it's negative feedback. If you are moving the needle forward, you've effectively put oil in the machine. Now, does that mean people like myself, for instance, can't talk about the culturally significant part of this or the artistic part of this? I would say, yeah, I think there is room to talk about the cultural significance and the philosophy of what's going on. For instance, I think RJ from the Fourth Age is fantastic. I stand by his channel because he's actually not. If you're aware of the Fourth Age, he doesn't talk about the progressive ideologies affecting the narrative in comics, for instance, he doesn't talk about it in the way of complaining or in a spirit of pessimism, or in a spirit of complaining. He never grumbles about it. He looks at it from like a scholarly position. This is his scholarship. Political science and philosophy is actually his scholarship. So he's actually coming from a place of pure speculation in the hopes of birthing something new, completely new in the way of art. He's pretty much finishing a graphic novel, for instance, of a heroic character because he believes in the traditional idea of hero. So someone like RJ from the Fourth Age talking about what's going on currently in Marvel Comics, that makes more sense because it is educational, insightful, and he's actually actively working and promoting new independent art. So that's the one example. Of course, the other example is my prof. He's going to talk about uh, art and mythology in the way that it is culturally impactful, whether in history or whether in the current day. But notice, he has stopped doing office hours because that kind of content where we were, all of us, we were in this, phase where we were kind of complaining and talking about the importance of this archetype and this hero and all of that with that idea, well, maybe it will change. Maybe it will change for the best if we keep talking about this, if we keep kind of, being that stick in the mud. The pandemic changed that. The pandemic changed that. How it did? Well, Hollywood was pretty much at its knees financially with the slowdown of production and the cancellations and political scandals and all of that. But things were financially impacting Hollywood for the worst, especially transferring the theater experience to the streaming experience, which is much cheaper to the consumer. But that doesn't make the production in Hollywood any cheaper to make those movies. So the prophet pointed out that we could have had, the fandom menace, but I don't associate myself with that. The fans could have been diligent and could have been disciplined, very disciplined to say, nope, you guys are at a standstill right now in Hollywood. You are pretty much at that threshold where you just can't go forward and you have to depend on the fans to give the fans what they want. But that didn't happen because people kept watching things offered to them, even if they were bad, And there are some channels out there that are really entertaining, very entertaining to hear. It's kind of entertaining to hear people complain about stuff. And these people would watch those things and then complain. But do you really think their audience, like their 100,000 or so subscribers, wouldn't watch it just because their speaker or their entertainer watched it? No, of course they watched it. They wanted to know if their favorite commentator validated their opinion and assessment of that piece of art, no matter how bad it was. So we did not abstain from all of that. We did keep it in motion. We did keep circulating it. And I did it myself. Not that I watched any of the new movies or shows myself, but I would listen to these channels quite frequently, quite often. And so we are at a period now in the fandom where we've become quite gluttonous in our acceptance of what is so. But people also simultaneously believe that there is hope at the end. There's hope to see something good at the end. But in their gluttony, if they keep giving Disney the good feedback and the bad feedback, or something like Disney, some company like Disney, it doesn't have to be Disney. Name your company, name your franchise. If the fans keep giving Disney what they want, which is positive feedback and negative feedback, then it will never be so. In the case of Star Wars, it will take decades for this to be even realized. It'll take years before this is manifested. The manifestation actually will eventually be irrelevant. It'll be irrelevance. Star Wars will be irrelevant over time. I'm giving it 2 or 3 generations. It's gonna be a long time. But it's just gonna be this, old dying horse, this cloppity clop, cloppity clop. It's not a thoroughbred anymore. It's not a racehorse. It's an old, beaten, tired, bony horse that is just gonna go cloppity clop for years on end because Disney has exactly what the fans what they want the fans to do. So where I say with Advent, take a time, take a season. Well, I don't have to tell you guys, but take a take some time, take a season of penitence, of abstaining from something. It's actual. It would be the universal abstaining of viewing and buying for Star Wars, for instance, to be as good as what it was culturally and even spiritually. So those are my thoughts, how hope must be an active discipline. It's got to be a discipline. You've got to practice moving on to different things. And one thing that I wanted to share, an example that I really do like to partake in is, of course, going back to the old stuff. So, for instance, something that I'm really enjoying right now is the excellent writing of Agents of Shield, that television show. I'm thoroughly enjoying the show, and it's old. It's got some years to it now, but I love it. And, I've never seen it before. It's not something I'm going back to. This is the first time viewing it, and the prof has a slew of old classic sci-fi stuff that we'll be going to visit after Agents of Shield. So the idea of stopping at Infinity War, for instance, is a perfectly acceptable thing for me. It's perfectly fine that I don't go past Infinity War in Marvel. I'll go back to the old stuff. I think we're going to take a look at Agent Carter as well. And so, one good example of this time of penitence, if you will, is to reflect on the old stuff, on the wholesome stuff, on the stuff that is good. Another example for me is I'm really enjoying playing Final Fantasy. I'm in game 4, Final Fantasy 4. I'll be doing 6 after that, and I'm really enjoying it. I love the old stuff. I love the old games. That good wholesome stuff. I don't need the new stuff. I would never need a new console, anything new. PlayStation's coming out with. Prof, he every year enjoys Batman Arkham Origins. I love watching him play. I really do enjoy that game a lot. And so he has something to go to. He has something to enjoy. So, revisiting the old, it doesn't, we live in this culture where it's like, but I have to try the new stuff. And it's like, you don't. That's actually, rather, I would just say if it's not good, it's actually a rather materialistic approach. So go back to the old stuff. And if you've seen the old stuff, just go back to and find something new that you didn't realize about the old stuff. And then also, of course, you creatives out there, study the old stuff so you can actually work in the new stuff. So, as I mentioned in the previous week, RJ from the Fourth Age is actually um, working very hard, and then, his goal for the next 10 years is to develop a small comic company where there would be independent artists and storytellers. And I think that's fascinating. I think that's wonderful. And so, that's my challenge to the fans. That's my challenge to especially the fandom who they decry and they protest and they say this is wrong. We don't want this. That we're in the dark ages. It's like, well, you're going to continue in the dark ages, not even realizing it anymore. It's kind of like, I'm paraphrasing what C.S. Lewis said, but it's like you've enslaved yourself to it, to where you no longer see your prison as a prison but something to enjoy. And to be honest, I think people really do like, they like they like grumbling, they like complaining. I actually listened to these guys, three guys, uh, called the Night's Watch, with Shad from Shadiversity, and some of their humor, they got to be careful because it's like three guys, so it's they can get a little, um, not my cup of tea as far as guy humor, and but I actually just like listening to them talk. But they're talking about right now the Wheel of Time series, and they're finding a lot of problems with it. I don't know anything about the series, but when I listen to them, and I'm really, I'm listening to them actually more for what Shad has to say about writing, because he's pretty insightful as far as writing goes. But respectfully, I like listening to him, but respectfully, he is one of those fans who says, I'm gonna watch it so you don't have to. And he holds on to this hope that franchises will get it right, or companies will get these stories right. He holds on to the hope. He's so far he has seen many problems with the adaptation of the Wheel of Time, and he still holds on to the hope that it won't be a complete axing of the stuff he really loves about the books. Whereas one of his friends is kind of the pragmatist. He's like, Shad, they're gonna destroy everything you love because that's what they've been doing for the last 10 or so years. And I'm on the side of his pragmatic friend there. He there's this one instant in the story, and Shad is thinking, I hope this doesn't happen. My brain is saying it would be a surprise if it didn't happen. I would not be surprised if the thing that Shad fears comes to fruition, because it's been like that for 10 years. And so I listened to his thoughts on writing. It's insightful for me as a writer. And I don't even know anything about these books and the is it Netflix or Amazon doing the Wheel of Time? Um, but I hear him, and I hear the three of them. Now here's the thing. They have, as much as they complain about what's going wrong with the adaptation, they are still enjoying themselves. They love talking to each other. You could tell they're really good friends. You can tell they really enjoy being together. They love talking. They love talking about this. It's actually, I would say, this complaining about what's going on in the fandom and the franchises is a pastime. It's become a pastime. It's become a kind of recreation to the point where you don't even know anymore that it's causing this ongoing cycle. Whereas with penitence and real hope, you would feel the resistance. You would feel the war on your flesh when you abstain from these things. Now, someone might just argue with me, like, "Well, Michelle, you're kind of a hypocrite for listening to this one gentleman." I don't agree with what he is, doing as far as watching it and holding on to the hope, but I more garner his insight from writing. And actually, the difference, the difference between the changes made with adaptation versus the original source. And actually, it might come to the point where it's like, well, I do like this guy a lot, but I think I'll stop. I think it has been with a couple of channels where I'm like, I don't know if I can go forward. So that's been my experience at least. So anyway, I'm going to talk to the chat, but that's been my experience where I think unless people on a global scale abstain, and I'm talking about people who complain. I'm talking about people who do not like what's happening to our beloved franchises. Unless those people abstain, it's only going to feed the machine. So let's go ahead and get into the chat with that, and hopefully it was an interesting overview of Advent season. Oh, it's Wolfton. I see Wolfton. Welcome, Wolfton. So anyway, yeah. Anyway, hopefully you guys learn stuff, and we'll take it away. Oh wow, you guys have been active. Brian Gilmartin says a company called 8-Bit Do makes wireless controllers for many retro consoles. For NES, I recommend the 2.4 gigabyte version of their newer N30 gamepad. That's cool. Thank you. The music is from YouTube's own library. Oh, interesting. Okay, so they have a pretty extensive library. It's the only place I know to get music without the annoying copyright thingy. Yeah, we talked about that on my stream before. You probably could find some very cheap, good music, wonderfully mastered music as background music for very, very cheap. Like I can't imagine you spending more than $50, if that, maybe even $30 for some really nice, high quality licensed music. So you'd have the license to promote that music on your channel. So something to think about. But yeah, what you have actually is quite fine. Fotis says, I've been a member of 9 Inch Nails. Very good orchestration, 9 Inch Nails. I just wish the songs weren't so angry sounding. I've been a member of 9 Inch Nails forum for almost 15 years. I've seen a lot of toxic and unhealthy fans over the years, but us longstanding members are like one big family. And that's actually kind of what I hope it would be with the case of something like Star Wars. Yeah, and I would say 9 Inch Nails would just have that fan base, like people like you who would support their music. Now, I don't suppose though that 9 Inch Nails is actually suffering in quality though. Whereas the franchises I'm talking about, it's actually suffering in quality of art and also writing. But I'm glad to know, there is a very strong core that is the fan base that would just keep the band going. What a blessed thing. What a blessed thing for a band to have. I'm just starting from scratch. All right. You mentioned this. I mentioned this because I know firsthand what it means to be in a healthy, unhealthy state as a fan of anything. Yes, that might be a separate topic, but there really is. There is. Well, this is kind of a separate topic. I'll go through the chat, but I'll just say it. I'll say it this way. Let's see if I can find the words. You don't want something that you love become an idol or a complete identity. So, meaning if let's say, sorry guys, I'm going to use Star Wars because that's the first thing that's coming up in my head. Let's say your love for Star Wars or Star Wars itself becomes a kind of idol where you identify as only a Star Wars fan. And so you can't stop your support of anything Star Wars because that's actually going to cause an identity crisis or an inferiority complex. That's actually a very, 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 very unhealthy way of being a fan. Um, I'm a fan of ideas like wholesome art or something that is good, something that points to the higher order because I'm a Christian. So something like that, like where I really hold true to values, not so much an actual thing like the Star Wars IP. Because what I believe, like if you have a value instead, so let's say, okay, I'm going to uphold what I know to be good and true and just. And if there's something in the Star Wars story that upholds that, then you're a fan of Star Wars. But if Star Wars starts devolving into this kind of degeneracy where everything becomes irrelevant, then you're safe to say, well, I'm not a fan of this Star Wars. So for me, I'm not a fan of Star Wars. I'm not a fan of Disney Star Wars. I don't have to be, and I don't feel any identity crisis from that. Like, Star Wars Disney could say tomorrow morning, "We are done, and we're not gonna have anyone have control over the IP," meaning Star Wars cannot be made anymore. Nothing. That would not shake me in the very least, because I have what I know, and that's my love for the original trilogy. And for all the writing flaws of the prequels, I like the prequels too. It's you know, it's not as good as the original trilogy, but like so if Disney's like, okay, guys, let's say something catastrophic happens where like the computer system that houses all things Star Wars IP just goes kaput, and they would have to start from scratch, and they're saying no, we're done. We lost all our assets, but we don't have any creative control anymore. We don't have the capacity to create something new out of Star Wars. It's done. No more Star Wars world. Sorry, we're done. Star Wars is dead. Like literally, if they said that tomorrow morning, wouldn't faze me at all. Like we got the original copies. I know the story like the back of my head or hand. The story in my head like the back of my hand. And so that's a healthy way of being a fan. It's this acceptance that you do uphold you do adhere to a virtue or you do uphold a value. But if that thing that you're a fan of ceases to uphold that value you have, you don't have to call yourself a fan of that anymore. Um, in my case, it's like, well, the old Star Wars or some even some stories in the EU that upholds what had come before, and so I'm a fan of that. But I don't need to be a fan of the IP itself. Oh, that's a shame. So, concerning your forum, some members started arguing about off-topic issues and the owner was forced to take it down. Oh, terrible. Terrible. Yeah, that's unfortunate. That sounds like it's out of control. Photo says, while I'm not religious, I've always had some amount of hope and positivity in me, even in my darkest times. Yeah, I guess what drives me is that I like to be pleasantly surprised by life every day. Yeah, yeah. Finding what's good and what's beautiful in the day to day life is a very good aspect and reflection on life. Brian Gilmartin says, this seems like the flip side to Thanksgiving, where Thanksgiving is about being thankful for your harvest, whatever form that takes. This sounds like it's looking toward a hopeful future. Yeah. And then there's my owl with sunshine and rainbows. Excuse me. Photo says, on cynicism in fandom, it is either in hate watching a show you hate just so you can pile on it for fun, or in a stubborn tendency to stay in the past. Things were better back then. Yeah, actually, the Bible itself, where is it? It's either in Ecclesiastes or Lamentations. I want to say Ecclesiastes, but I have to look. It says, do not yearn for the previous days, for you are foolish in doing so. So while you can uphold the past and pay homage to it, you have to be content in the time you're in. And also in the book of Acts, it's 17, Acts 17, 26, which is one of my favorite verses, where it's, God had placed everyone. It pretty much emphasizes God placing or designing everyone to be in their time period in human history with boundaries, which of course means nations or districts. And I find that fascinating. I mean, it's like, yeah, like I'm sure the future will look cool, or something futuristic and exciting and all that. Or I'm sure some things in the past are, would be fun to live in, or I reminisce the 90s. But do I need to be in the 90s again? No, I have to be content with the present day and where I'm at. Brian Gilmartin says, looking to other IPs has given something to hope for in light of the debasing of our heroes. It's led me to the 90s Superman animated series, tokusatsu like the Gridman, and new video games like Ninja Gaiden and Phantasy Star. I don't need the current mainstream to give me anything. Yeah, I'm perfectly fine with doing the retro games. All right. Oh, actually, Fotis, the Tartakovsky Clone Wars, I hear is very, very good. I haven't seen it yet. I think actually the Prof and I we probably should view it at one point, but we've heard nothing but acclamation on it. I can't really get past the animation, like the blocky animation, but I heard the storytelling is really good, especially in two areas with the training of Anakin Skywalker, and then also Grievous as a character. So I would probably watch it for that reason. Yeah, Dr. White just said it, but it has a more fearsome depiction of General Grievous. Now, I can't remember if that came before the Revenge of the Sith, but I knew nothing about these characters. And so when I saw General Grievous, I'm like, okay, that's cool. But I heard a lot of people had a problem with the depiction of that character. Brian Gilmartin says, my boredom with all the Star Wars talk on many channels is one reason why I enjoy being part of Wolf 10 Media's anime spotlights. We get to focus on stuff that isn't widely talked about in the mainstream. Yeah, and I think you guys have a love and respect for anime, and you enjoy that. And I think there's a lot to be gathered up, in something that is away from the mainstream. Consumer culture in a nutshell. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Dr. Y says the only real way to change the direction of Star Wars would be to put in charge of let me see this if I'm saying this right. The only real way to change the direction of Star Wars would be to put in charge to be maybe you're missing a word. I think you're missing a word or a name of a person. Oh, I bet you're saying for fans to be put in charge. Yeah. I mean, I think, oh gosh, I think Big Al and the Prof were talking about DC, or at least the character of Superman, becoming public domain. I can't remember Al's position on it, but I do remember I think the Prof had no problem with it becoming public domain. And people would say, but no, but there'd be bad depictions of Superman if he left it to the fans. That could be true. But you know what? There'd be also many, 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 many good depictions of Superman as well. Probably more than what we get now. By more, I mean all of it. And Wolf 10's in the house. Hey there, Wolf 10. Looks like all the old crew is back. Oh, Wolf 10 says, I think my channel slightly dropped in views because we stopped complaining about stuff. I know. Not losing sleep over it. I warned them I was shifting direction. I think, yeah, you raise a good point, Wolf 10. I'm not losing views, but I am stagnating. And I think it's because my channel is pretty much music focused. And actually I'll probably talk about this toward the end of the stream here. It is music focused. It's sound focused. I'm gonna be working in SuperCollider and showing another video in SuperCollider. And so my scholarship on music and my experience as a liberal arts major in the music department at the time, that's kind of been taking front and center. Yeah, I had a couple Star Wars playlists. I talk about Star Wars, but it's just not been my main focus. Music will continue to be the primary thing of my channel. My name is Sound Engraver. Obviously, it's going to be referring to music and sound experimentation. And why I say that is I've learned to be content that that alone is not going to garner a huge audience. Maybe like over time. I'm putting out like 2 or 3 channels a week. That's pretty prolific for a YouTube channel. And I'm very happy with my subscriber count, but it's actually just not grown. It's just not grown. And maybe it's because my topics are a little sporadic between talking about things like Star Wars and then music. I'm not sure. But the idea of like art history. So like the last few streams, I've talked about different movements in art, and I might continue with that as it goes. But I had some thoughts on these art movements that a lot of artists, not a lot, but a handful of artists didn't like. They didn't like my opinion. It's okay. You don't have to like my opinion, but I think I did get a drop in viewership because of that. Because up until that point, they saw, oh, she does SuperCollider. She's cool. Oh, she thinks about this in art, and that's just going to happen. And so I have been learning over the past few weeks to be very content with a drop in viewership because of a dissenting opinion. And where it's gonna be is, people who would disagree with me but still support me, I love, that's great, that's fantastic, and they don't have to support me. But, like, "Oh, no, maybe I don't agree with her opinions, but I like her music," for instance, or I like what she's doing in SuperCollider. Where was I going with this? Um, I think I lost my train of thought. Um, I say all that because what the stuff I really wanna focus on for my channel brings me joy. It brings me a kind of fulfillment that, I couldn't find if I were to talk about topics that were really attracting people, that really gave me a boost in the algorithm. So where I would say Wolf 10 is focus on the stuff that you love to talk about, because even if it's a small audience, it's going to collect over time, and it's going to collect and gather into the audience you want, like the demographic that you're meant to serve. I feel like I'm meant to serve people who really love music, or electronic music at least, and they love sound. They love sound experimentation, and maybe a little bit of geek stuff, or writing too, writing as well. And that's the audience that I serve because I love that stuff. So any stream that you find me in, like when I'm talking to you, like my stream, I'm not talking about being a guest on other people's streams. Whatever stream you see me present, just be assured, like you guys know already, but rest assured that I love talking about what I love talking about, or rest assured that the idea I'm talking about is important to me. It's nothing insincere. I'm not thinking, oh, what to talk about today. Actually, usually I kind of think about it, process it, like I'd like to talk about it this next stream or something. And I think people will latch onto that. So with your channel, Wolf 10, like I actually, I'll see your thumbnails, and honestly, like usually I'm busy in the afternoons anyway, but you talk about stuff I know nothing about, and that's fine. But I think you're gonna have that audience. Like the more you talk about the things you love, like anime, for instance, you're gonna have that audience. You're gonna have that audience over time. I will say though, fixed videos still garner more views than the streams themselves. Oh, Brian, I didn't know. Was it 2020 that you started to get to know Professor Geek? That's interesting. I thought you were a fan of his for a while. Hair's getting a little stringy. Um, Foda says, because we didn't fast, we did lead many franchises to franchise fatigue and event fatigue recently. Yes, every movie has to be like the next Avengers Endgame. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Actually, the Prof and I we've been going through Agents of Shield, but also chronologically with the movies. So we just finished Age of Ultron, and I had heard people complain about that film. I really enjoyed that film. I thought that was a great film, and the Prof was mentioning that maybe one reason why people were complaining about that film was they were expecting another Avengers movie. And it's like, no, because it works as a subsequent film. It works as a second installment of the team that was already set up. It's not you're not going to meet the Avengers again in the way that you had with that first film. And I find that to be a little interesting that it's like, oh, everything has to be the end game now. It's like, no, no, start from scratch. Start slow. Start with new characters. This shouldn't be rocket science. Media and producers. It's like, oh, end game. We got to make every event like the end game. No, 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 no. Yeah. Foda says, I will be culturally relevant forever. Yeah, that's the plan, right? That's the goal of every artist, or at least it should be, right? Well, actually, honestly, like if something happens, 200, 300 years down the road, and like my space opera gets picked up and becomes culturally successful, but my name isn't mentioned, I would hope at least those books and those stories are mentioned. Yes. Yeah. The only way to stop this phenomenon is to starve these companies of attention, both positive and negative. So, Brian, yeah, you're touching on a good point, and I talked about it too. People, understandably, it's understandable, but people do believe that negative attention and press will just quell the whole machine. Like it will stop it. It'll douse its light. And that's simply not true. And if anything social media has taught us is the idea of anti-fragility, which means someone could do something absolutely horrendous, something abominable, something disgusting, something scandalous. Those are the things that go viral. And if those things go viral, they will be culturally relevant. That's how the system works. So Disney can do the worst thing to fans, and it sort of did with the firing of Gina Carano. The firing of Gina Carano, man, if anything should have stopped fans from supporting Disney, it should have been that. Whether you agree with her or not, whether you think the situation was fair or not, one thing cannot be denied. It upset a lot of fans that she would not continue with the production of that TV series, and then maybe even subsequent projects with her character. Her character was pretty much royally killed off because of politics, whether you're for her politics or not. Like she's a very strong-headed woman, and she shares my views. I wouldn't have, I wouldn't approach my views the way she does, but that doesn't matter. She could have opposing views, like things I don't even support. But if it's just words, it's just words. But people had to get their way on Twitter, and Disney made the call. She got fired, and people were outraged for at least a couple of months, which is comparably pretty long, in terms of news stories. And I'm thinking, okay, this should do it, right? This should really be the straw that the last straw to to hit the camel's back. What's that phrase? Why do I always forget what phrases are? Broke the camel's back. Gina Carano and the firing of Gina Carano should have been the straw that broke the camel's back in terms of fans supporting Disney. And what's happening? 8 months later or 9 months later, you got the Book of Boba Fett, and people are just, Gina who? That's what it is. And that's what Disney does so well. They can do something totally abominable and negative. They can make a stir. They could cause a stir. And it would outrage everyone in the camp of fandom. And then what happens? Here's the thing. They do that after a show. They want you to see the whole show, then do something scandalous, and then wait 8 or 9 months later and do another show because we don't have the attention span. And that's the example of anti-fragility, where you can cause such a ruckus. You can do something so, get under the skin of all the fans, and then 9 months later, it's like, let's gobble it up. They would not have done what they did to Gina Carano before the end of season 2. And they certainly would not have done it any time during the filming of season 3. Or at least the release of season 3. That is anti-fragility. You could do anything and you could still get away with it. It's terrible. But fans don't have the attention span. Or if they do, they don't have the discipline. They don't have the code of honor or the moral code to stick to their principles. Dr. Y mentions Disney had Power Rangers for almost 10 years. I didn't know that. And then tried to kill it off because they didn't know what to do with the franchise. Yeah, don't own a franchise. Don't buy a franchise if you don't know what to do with the franchise. Brian Gilmartin says, it's unfortunate that too many... let me read this clearly. It's unfortunate that too many people would rather complain and listen to complaints rather than look for alternatives that make them happy. It's proof that people are too cynical and defeatist today. That is true. But as I said, it with good, well-meaning people like Shad from Shadiversity, he definitely has fun talking about it. Now, maybe someone like Nerdrotic would look angry, and maybe he is angry. Maybe Nerdrotic is sincerely angry. But there's kind of this high that you do see these people have talking about it. They're they get off on it, so to speak. It's like, oh yeah, like that kind of chemical. Maybe it's dopamine. Maybe it's kind of a stimulant. Like, oh, that feels great. I'm more awake now. And I think even if they hate what they're talking about, they love talking about it. They love talking about what they hate because it is chemically addicting. Complaining, if you're not careful, if you do not guard your heart, it's very easy to do. Super, super, super easy to do. Fotis is talking about is that a Batman reference? Oh no, sorry. I thought I read Gotham instead of Goliath. My ritual is to visit the Mars Voltas, the Bedlam and Goliath every summer. And then he mentions, yeah, Professor Geek's revisiting Arkham Origins. I'll do that too this Christmas. Thanks. It's great. It's great. And I'm a gamer in that I love gameplay. I like to actually be in the game myself, but that game is so fun to watch. I probably wouldn't be good. Yeah, the Prof is good actually in the game. I probably would be bad. And then I love your quote that people love complaining. Yeah. Dr. Y's like, Shadiversity. Yes, I love that guy. He's great. Actually, yeah, those Those channels that, talk about medieval weapons and stuff and weaponry and fighting and stuff is pretty insightful. I don't get so much into the weapon videos because I just don't do medieval fantasy settings, but I could see where his channel is very, very helpful in that. Actually, Ace, I don't think he'll be streaming Arkham Origin. We just hang out at night. Um, but maybe that'd be a thing next year to do. I used to hate that game when I first played it, but I grew to love it after playing it continuously and seeing all the little details I missed before. Now, I did actually think I do think he's streamed it before, and that was before he met me. So his language might be a little more crass. um uh Actually, I don't know his brother, Dr. Y. But anyway, yeah, the prof streaming, I felt like he streamed Arkham Origins before. All right, I'm gonna kind of scroll through. Um, uh, yeah, I'll scroll through. Ace says, "Hitting the sack. Peace out, Sound Engraver. Have a good weekend, everyone. Have a or good week. Yes, have a good week. Good night. All right." Looks like you guys are talking amongst yourselves too. That's cool. Awesome. The community's back. Hmm. Photo says, by the way, I loaded a free trial plugin that admitted random synth beliefs as an anti-piracy measure. Cool. I recorded those and turned them into a soundscape. Yeah, I am proud. That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. I'm just kind of skimming through. John Hansen is here. I see. John Hansen says, I was a fan of all things Lego, especially a subline called Bionicle way back in the 2000s, but it wasn't my identity. It was not my identity. As I grew and that series got rebooted, I just moved on. Always be content. Yeah, that's good. That's a healthy version of being a fan. Honestly, you want to be a fan of things that make you happy. That would be my sage advice. All right, Horizon Talker, it was good to see you. I didn't see you in the conversations, but I know you've probably been working on your art. All right, I hope you have all a great stream. We'll probably wrap it up soon. It's already 11. I got to do a couple things tonight. But here's what Wolf10 says. Clone Wars animated predates Revenge. Oh, it does predate. Okay, I thought so. It predates Revenge of the Sith. It causes the ire of the fans because Clone Wars set him up as a villain to be feared, while Revenge and let's see if I can find your comment. And the Clone Wars saw fit to fit into the narrative of him being a coward. Actually, that's true. Yeah, the Filoni Clone Wars did. He was intimidating, but yeah, he always tried to escape. Where Clone Wars animated depicted him as using cunning, careful, and strategic tactics to face the Jedi. Yeah, that would be formidable for sure. Okay, so that is that in the works or something, or maybe a few years down the road. I don't suppose DC would do that, but why not? That would be that would be so awesome if Superman became public domain. That would be the best thing for society in a long while. Oh, interesting. On Grievous, since they can use the Force and he could not, he had to break their spirits first to deal with them, making him think rashly on how to deal with him. Yeah. Oh, interesting. Well, welcome, Final Fantasy Fan 12 or 012. Good to have you. Better late than never. Um, Wolf 10. Maybe my viewership ship dropped because I said non-binary doesn't exist. I mean, yeah, the thing is, wherever you are politically, it's I hate to use the phrase slippery slope, but I just if I ever talk about politics, it has to be in relation to something very, very important to me. Whether that's art and the trajectory of art and where it's going. Of course, that includes music and writing, or if there's something really contending with my Christian faith, and I feel like I have to bring it up. Um, now with people like you, Wolf 10, I mean, you do plan on I don't know when, but it looks like, you're planning on producing art for, as an independent artist for a kind of demographic, uh, which it would be half and half. It'd be half and half, like where people would agree with you or disagree with you. I tell you though that social media, man, social media makes you think that you are completely alone when you have a different opinion, and it's kind of sad. It's kind of sad. And I think that people who just agree with you would be, you know, shy to speak up and agree with you. Oh, thank you, John Hanson. Oh, wait, unless you're talking about Wolfton. Thank you. I appreciate that. I would like to stay sincere, like even if my views don't get any more. I have long I've kind of long checked the idea that I could ever have this channel monetized because it just doesn't have the content that really garners the public watch hours. Um, and it's sad too because on my phone I don't have YouTube Premium, so I do have ads, and it irks me when I see an ad on my own video if I'm replaying my video to see something, and an ad pops up. It was like, "Oh, I'm not even being paid for that." Oh well. Oh, Elijah Brown's here. I'm totally in favor of going in one's own direction. Here, here. Here, here. All right. Let's see if I can catch up with chat. Probably, definitely by 11:30, I'll wrap up. But I think I'll be caught up before then. Wolf10 says, all that you have said, I've got that covered. Don't you worry about Wolf Commander. He stands proud with his wingman next to him, sharing in the sunlight. Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to. I would say you would have to let people early on know what you're about, even socially or politically, if you take that route. For instance, Dolly Parton, the country artist, she's famous for not telling the public about her politics, and I like her for that. I respect her for that. But if you are talking about commentary, like in the way of a YouTube stream, I would say, yeah, people more or less ought to know what you're about, and if they disagree with you and choose not to listen, then that's fine. But at least by a certain point, you would have an audience that knows what to expect. Excuse me. I got a cough. 1 second. Oh, now I have to sneeze. I think it's the drop in temperature. Yeah, you said it, Brian Gilmartin. That's the thing with Hollywood. They tend to chase trends rather than innovate or create new stars. Yeah, or characters too. Photo says, I unearthed the project files of a YouTube show I started in 2016 and abandoned after one episode. I plan on remastering it and actually filming a second episode. The original is still on my channel. Now, I know, excuse me, I think Photos on your channel, you do, is it Ableton tutorials and soundscapes, like sound experimentation? That's cool. After Kia show, and I portray an alien who talks about oddities in music. That's cool. That's cool. Final Fantasy says, to be the next Avengers Endgame, are you kidding me? Like what? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I'm serious, Photos. I think people, you know, like if people who disagreed with Gina Carano and fine with what happened to her, if they continue watching Disney stuff without her, that's one thing. But it's when people are they were upset, they were so furious. And I remember Professor Geek just calling it. I think it was like that week. He said, "Give it time. A few months down the road, the next shiny thing is going to happen." And they're like, "Oh, this is great." It's like a rabid dog. And then like you beat the dog and you kick the dog, and then he's lashing at you. The dog's lashing at you, and then you put up a sirloin steak in front of him, like some piece of raw meat or whatever. That's what the Disney fans are right now. They were furious at the firing of Gina Carano, and now they're totally accepting what's coming next. Disney knows. Like, can you imagine like what they are talking about in the think tank or whatever, or maybe they have a conference call. I bet you, like, I know a conversation like this is bound to have happened where they talk about what to do with Gina Carano, and they say, well, like PR or whatever, they say, well, we have to make sure that this firing is going to be, I would say 2 to 3 weeks. Let's give it 2 to 3 weeks after Christmas, sometime in January. Oh, and maybe there's like a political thing happening at January 6th, right? Okay, something major political has happened, guys. Let's up this. You know, let's bump this up a notch. Let's up the ante. Let's place her firing. This was strategic. Let's place her firing right in the middle of all this happening in January 6th. I think she was fired in January, if I'm not mistaken, or it was publicly known. And then and they did that because it's like, well, we're not even starting the filming of season 3 of Mandalorian, and Book of Boba Fett will be not until the end of December. So it's like, guys, we don't have anything releasing until the end of December. High Republic, we can release anytime because they don't like High Republic. So, and then there's the, alleged extension of Kathleen Kennedy's contract. Can you imagine if that contract was extended right after the firing of Gina Carano? And then the season 3 Mandalorian aired 2 weeks later? No way would people be viewing that, because it'd just be so short on the time. Anyway. Oh, interesting. Yeah, you are talking about James Gunn, and that he was hired for Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and the Suicide Squad. Yeah. So, like, the outrage goes away. Yeah. Oh, after the semester. Oh, cool. After the semester's over, you could stream Arkham Origins. Yeah. That'd be awesome. Yeah, maybe it'd be like something like on a Monday night where I stream, and then you stream, and then we all stream, and we all scream for ice cream. And then okay, I'll check it out, Dr. Y. Shadowversity's brother. His name is Jazza. I'm so bad with English accents and Australian accents. Like, um unless it's a really accented Australian accent, I can't if it's a very muted Australian accent, I will think the person is British because forever I thought Shadiversity was British. I thought he was English. And then I was like, "Why is he living in Australia?" I was like, "He's Australian." I didn't hear it for the longest time. Like when you think of something is so, you really do hear it as that. I don't think he's British, right? In any case, he lives in Australia. But yeah, I thought he was British all this time. Wolftan is mentioning wall chicken. Inside joke, of course. Um, oh, actually, Wolftan, yeah, you had an interview recently, right? Finding a new job, planning what to do with WCR. Yeah, with Patreon and Subscribestar. I forgot to ask if your interview went okay. I hope it did, but yeah, looking for work. That's probably gonna be my future, like in the next month or two. I do need to bump up my income. Final Fantasy fan saying, I've been writing Light and Darkness, getting started on chapter 11, by the way, and I have other ideas for other stories in mind, all because I've grown an affinity for writing hero stories. Yep. Yeah. All right, I gotta probably skim through these guys, but I'll try. Oh, good. I'm pretty close to the end. Dolly Parton not only avoids talking about politics, but also her personal life and marriage. That's kept her happily married for decades. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's really, for a famous person, really admirable because I really can't I can't really harangue on these big name celebrities because I will never have their platform. I will never have their power. So it I can't criticize how they use their platform because I don't have it. Like, if you have a taste of having this gigantic, massive platform with a huge, huge, undying fan base, that can get to your head pretty easily. So I'm not gonna complain all the time. Yeah, Wolfton, I'm pretty much out too. All right, and then we'll leave it on this note. Ice cream. Yeah, love ice cream. I might have. I wonder if there's. Prof, is there still any more pumpkin pie with whipped cream? That sounds pretty good. Um. So anyway, hopefully that was good. I know the season of Advent was more an overview than anything, but and if I feel like I've left anything out that was on my mind previously, I will definitely try to compile my thoughts into a separate video. But anyway, that was fun. I really enjoyed talking about that. Next week, I do have something in mind to talk about, and it actually would be less talking about it and more showing it as an activity. And I might be streaming from OBS if that's the case, even though I haven't done it here. We'll see. We'll see. If I'm successful with OBS, I might actually go ahead and do it. And it depends on how much work I get done next week. I'll just give you a bit of a teaser. Either this week or the following week, or maybe even the week before Christmas, I would definitely like to stream composing a Batman theme. Like, I want to compose a theme for Batman. And it'd be really much of a rough draft, but I want to talk about what really should go in to a Batman theme and talking about the music analysis and the theory behind composing a really good Batman theme. Because I have a theme in mind. And I think Batman really deserves a really lengthy, comprehensive, and memorable theme. He has a great motif from Danny Elfman. He's got wonderful music from the animated series by Shirley Walker. But I just feel like he doesn't have a theme, like a melody to his own. He doesn't have a theme like Superman has a theme. And I feel like we owe Batman a good epic music themes. So if I actually, I'll get some work done ahead of time, either this week or next. And so definitely want to have a stream where I would compose, show you how to compose a theme for Batman. I am interested. Yes, good. Because I've got some good ideas. Got some good ideas. Oh yeah. And also the Arkham themes as well. Arundel's, yeah. Good. So I think I'll stop there. I don't really want to announce anything too much until toward the end of the month on what I'm thinking on doing with this channel. Not much is changing, but a couple things are changing. Not basically stuff you would expect Sound Engraver to talk about and to do anyway. But anyway, I had a lot of fun. And no, Dr. Y, it's not that theme I'm thinking of. Had a lot of fun talking with you guys tonight, and thanks for watching. And until I see you next, whether on my stream or someone else's stream, keep producing and preserving the art you love, and I will catch you later. Thanks again.